Exactly.
So the answer is no.
So that's the point. I'm like, if you don't have this, no, so that's what it's.
So that
I
connection.
believe that connection
Okay,
occurs,
great.
but if you want to follow up with your company manager, like this.
You having fun with the computer?
I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it's so fun to
Got
do
an
that public
answer.
too.
That's
Just
right.
at home, you know?
Fine too, because I won't be able to do a presentation.
It's not too much trouble. That'd be great. Thanks.
Well, we haven't.
Sorry to
bombard
bombard
you.
you.
But doesn't really-
Yeah, they might close it
True.
So they
know
they
that
can just-
somebody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Not quite yet.
your presentation, I do. Okay. I have it as part, I have it. I'm gonna have it as a part of the agenda. I don't have a separate presentation, if that's okay. I don't.
It's okay, let me see
I'm
what I
gonna
can.
use this one on the screen.
Oh, you are, okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Hi, is this everyone okay with the light level in here? I realize we don't have any lights on in this room, but to me, it feels very comfortable. Is everybody comfortable with the light level?
I would love a little bit more light.
A little more light. We can do that for you.
Realizing my eyes are aging.
I gotcha.
Anything else? Anyone else want coffee, tea? No. Iced coffee?
That's good.
That sounds good.
No question.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The catering truck will be.
That's what I'm daydreaming about.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Let's get started. Nice to see everyone in person. And we will do, I don't see up there, but we'll do a quick round of introductions. So we always start our economic development meetings with any public comment for items not on the agenda. We only take public comment in the room. So if anyone would like to speak, feel really short on chair. I'll have to do the chair thing in a moment. So we'll just get, is that okay, Steve? Would you quickly do introductions?
Absolutely.
So Kate Collin, Mayor Simmerfell, and favorite meeting that I have today. Go ahead,
Hey.
Stacey.
Yeah. Good news. Stacy Lauman, City of San Rafael employee, Economic Development Division.
I'm Eli Hill. I represent District 2 on the City Council. This year I'm serving as Vice Mayor and joined Mayor Kate on the subcommittee.
Awesome. I'm Karen Strolia. I'm the San Rafael Chamber President and CEO.
Stephanie Plant. I am the CEO of a business in East San Rafael, TPI Developers, and I am the chair of the East San Rafael Working Group, which is a committee of the San Rafael Chamber.
Good afternoon. My name is Micah Hinkle. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director.
So I'm Holly. I am also a City of San Rafael employee working in sustainability.
My name is Emily Courtney. I have an organization called Good Green Work, and I supported the sustainability division in the equitable low carbon economy plan. We'll talk about today.
I'm Miriam, and I run the Small Business Development Center, and I'll be sharing a little bit more today as well.
Right, Christina Lilith, City Manager, San Rafael.
Fantastic. We'll get started. I'm so glad we have the partner updates first, because sometimes we run out of time. We also have a lot to cover in this meeting, so we just get right to it, but we also want to have those good discussions. So we'll start with the San Rafael Chamber in East San Rafael and downtown PID.
Awesome. Great. That's me. So I'm going to be covering San Rafael Chamber and also the bid district updates because Sarah's not here. I think the last time we met was pre-State of the City. So post-State of the City, it was a phenomenal event. It was a lot of fun. I think the feedback that we got was, can we have more networking time? Which is that's the easiest feedback to receive ever. So looking forward to our business showcase, which will be happening September 12th. And then we've got our Women of Industry, which is happening October 23rd. So we've got some robust events that are coming up at the chamber.
Karen, are you sending those dates like as a save the date to
Yes.
Lydia?
Yes, I will be. Yeah.
If you could do that, that would be great. So we can get out on all.
Yeah, no problem.
Later.
Easy peasy.
When did you say the business showcase was?
Business showcase is September 12th.
Thank you.
And Women of Industry is October 23rd. I know there's a lot of love going into both of those events right now. So it's really fun to kind of see the magic happening on the back end and all the enthusiasm. And then for the Business Improvement District, we've got a couple of events coming up soon. So our Dancing Under the Lights, which is a pivot from Dining Under the Lights, will be happening August 9th. So coming up soon from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that is on 4th Street between A and Luton's. There's some incredible live music that's happening. Eats, jumpies. I mean, Sarah just does a phenomenal job with these. So that's going to be a very exciting pivot from a historical event. We've also got our West End Block Party, which we've had a couple of years, I believe now. This is happening every Friday between August and October. So it's happening on the West End. And I don't have the block specifics, but it's in front of Pint Size. So you can find GDF. Thank you, GDF. You can also find additional information on about that event on the San Rafael Downtown Business Improvement District website. And then, of course, lastly, we've got our Porch Fest, which is happening September 15th. And that is in the Gerstle Park community and is also incredible. Lots of live music. It's an NA or a non-alcohol event, which is really fun. Lots of families are out there. So it's a different vibe, I think. We're excited about that one as well. Again, more information can be found about all three of these events on the website. And any upcoming chamber events can also be found on our chamber website. So that's it. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet.
We love all these events. We got most of those dates. I think we're all trying to write them down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, invites to everyone. And then we've got our East San Rafael Working Group meeting that's coming up. And I'm gonna let Stephanie take it away. She's the queen of that agenda, let me tell you.
Well, it's also September 12th, so you're gonna be busy that day.
Yeah.
And City Manager Olilovich is our guest, so start storing up your questions for her now. We hosted Chief. Help me out.
Spiller?
Yeah, Bishop, it just wants to come out of my mouth. Sorry, we hosted Chief Spiller on June 6th to a very full room. And he was informative and the group had lots of questions. And I think the dialogue was very positive. As I think both of you now know, but I was rather late because we went through the restraining order process with an unhoused person at a property that I own, and the hearing was set for the same day and time. And, you don't get to move those. So it was rather ironic that I walked in late to discuss that. He said, we have a see and say policy. And Kalina, who's my office colleague, she's like, say, tell them where you were. And so we had a little discussion about the process and the steps and, the steps to try to find more housing and find other solutions. And, so, it was a robust discussion we had. It makes the business owners, we're seeing some new businesses come into the meeting, which is great. More businesses, I'd say, from the canal proper. So a few more businesses owned by some of the Latino members of the community, which I think is really important. I know that's something that Karen is dedicated to broadening out the DEIB portion of the chamber. And it could be the same old Fred Grange few regulars, and it's not. So I think that's important to see that the voices growing. And we expect more of the same. We have Supervisor Rodoni coming on October 10 as well. And I am being solicited pretty hard by Corey Bidoff. And he'd like to get Kate Hantman in front of us. Hanteman. Yeah, and we were not able to do it because I wasn't going to bump the chief. And I'm really not interested in bumping any of the rest of you. So, and the group only meets every other month. I think Karen and I haven't talked about this, but there is an email in here to both of us. Perhaps that's a meeting that needs to happen in front of a different group of the chamber, or just an open meeting. It's a different meeting. I don't have enough meetings. And he's, Corey would take them all. He'd like to have one for sea level rise and one for illegal dumping and one for a couple of the other programs. And they're all great programs, but I don't think we need to do them all every year. That's my update.
Fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
I did hear from Cecilia Zamora. She is out of the country at the moment, so she's not able to join us today.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think since we've last met, we've had the graduation, so I just want to say
That's right, we did have.
thank you to the
graduation.
chamber for your, again, your leadership, literally around the Summerfeld Leadership Program. There was an amazing keynote speaker who had great clips of her previous career as a reporter, and it
We
was.
couldn't find anybody else, so.
Please. Yeah, that might work on other people that don't know you, but no, we know you. That was, so it was a great event, and we had city employees that participated, and I continue to be so grateful that you draw on people from all different industries, really cross-industry group. And really, how many graduates do you have? You should have like an alumni party.
We're talking about it.
Yeah,
No spoilers.
yeah.
I mean, no, but just here, I mean, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was fantastic. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. It was another, and Cecilia obviously helped make a lot of that happen.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
okay, group discussion.
That being said, if I can write the coattails, the applications, if there are people who want to participate, please send them over. The cutoff is September 13th, which is Friday, the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send all that information as well.
Application cutoff is Friday, September 13th.
For the general application, not the sponsorship application.
There's a scholarship opportunity available as well.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll get that word out. I'm not sure the small, oh, well, this must be there, and it's the Marin Small Business Development Center report, but I don't know if you're setting it up or Director Hinkle setting it up. Stacy's gonna set it up.
I can set it
Oh,
up.
you're literally setting it up.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. I have an important event I'm going to, and I'm just trying to keep.
We all get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys know.
Yeah.
I had to miss a wedding and a speaking event last year before, so I'm not gonna do that again.
Yeah, no, we get it.
Smart.
Yeah, no, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, so, thank you all for supporting our program, so many of you and all the partnerships. I sent this report to Micah and Stacy at the end of, I don't know, a few months ago, I guess. And so we've been trying to get it in to share it with others, because it's always good to know kind of what your funding is supporting and how we're working with the local community. So,
Can I jump in?
yeah.
Yeah, so the city through economic development supports the Small Business Development Center. Last year, I think we had a $20,000 grant of support to your
I think it
group.
was more, actually.
Was it more than that?
Yeah.
Okay, and this year we're recommending another increased support for programs that you provide. I think the city of San Rafael works in partnership with groups like Small Business Development Center and the Chamber to augment our community outreach in terms of, making sure that people in the community have the resources. That's part of the San Rafael Go program, is to partner with organizations like SBDC to make sure that the services that people need to launch a business, sustain a business, fund a business, expand their capacity, that's done through our partners. So yeah, it's really important partnership, I think, in terms of us providing service delivery for service, business enhancement and vitality in general, especially on the small business side, I'd say.
And, it's been great because we've gotten more referrals this year. I mean, this is 2023 data, but this year we've gotten already more referrals to support different businesses. Like we had a referral from the County of Health Department around a Vietnamese speaking business owner, and I was able to get someone that speaks Vietnamese to support that person. We also had somebody with Punjabi language support that I was able to support through our network. And then, of course, I think I just put an email out for some of you with a bakery. And so it's been great that we're developing more of this partnership, because it's wonderful that we're actually being able to support businesses in a different way, which is really, really huge. So it's great. I'm super grateful for all of your contributions and support and referrals. Keep, sending the businesses. I know Karen, you've sent a few. Because we're really, I think, the only resource within the county that does this kind of hands-on, really detailed support. So, we hope to get businesses to us before they're at that kind of point of no return place, so the more we can get referrals, sending it to us earlier on, the easier it is for us to be able to support a business and not get to that place where it's like, can't really do much now, so yeah. And I think some of you had sent me Arizmendi, and I am working with them. We'll see how that goes, but just, you know, we finally did make a connection to, because it took a little bit to get connected in my business, so. That's good. So these are just some testimonials that we've heard. We hear really amazing testimonials all the time. I always think it's great to hear from the clients versus me, but you know, just really being able to stay in business, grow, develop their online presence, get funding, whatever all the different pieces are. I'm not going to read them. I just put them up for you guys to see, but some of those are, it's really, I love the work that we do because it's so wonderful to see how businesses shift and change through those support and guidance. Yeah, we can go to the next. So in last year, we worked with 185 San Rafael businesses. We spent 768 hours of our time with one-on-one business advising. So that does not include all of our workshops. It doesn't include any other support. That's just literally time spent one-on-one with a business owner. Which is huge. It's been every year since we've gotten funding from the city. I feel like our numbers have keep growing in terms of being able to support more San Rafael businesses. And obviously San Rafael is the #1 city within the county that we get more businesses coming from. So it's a big part of our program. So last year we saw 61% women, about 36% minorities that came to us. We got better at tracking low income data. So last year we had that 15%. If you go up just a little bit more, that 15% is unknown. Last year, I think it was 30% or something like that. So we've been really getting better at really honing in on tracking that data so we can know where it's at. And it's actually much higher than what I thought. 57% low income is, I feel pretty high compared to other years. And I think that also says a lot about the economy in terms of where people are. You know, it's still, there are things that are doing well, but it's still there's still a struggle for businesses, and a lot of businesses I don't feel are still at their pre-pandemic revenue. So there's been changes no matter what. Even if they're still doing okay, there's still been shifts in how they're able to support themselves or how many employees they can support.
How do you define low income?
Yeah, it's according to HUD standards. So I don't have the chart. I can send it to you, but it's like for one person, it's under 104,000. For a family of 4, I think it's 140 or something like that. Something along those lines. So yeah. So this is the status. If you go, yeah, a little bit. This is the status of the businesses that they came to us. So 41% were pre-venture, which means that they haven't started. Startup means that they're within the first year, according to our database, how it tracks it. And then existing is once they're fully set up after a year, that's kind of loose because honestly, like somebody comes to us as a startup and they're really not really started, but technically for the way it's tracked in our system, it's counted as startup, but really you're like, no, you really haven't started yet. You're still in pre-venture in my opinion. So, but I'd still like to see that number of existing grow. That's what we're really aiming for. And all of our partnerships is to try to connect with more existing businesses because it's really easy to connect to the pre-venture or the people who are starting. Everyone can see SBDC as a resource that way. Existing businesses don't always see SBDC as a resource. And so that's something that I just put out would be lovely to see what we could do better at bringing in more existing.
In the pre-venture, I'm maybe applying something that may not exist, Miriam, so just
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. I'm imagining that there's more granularity in that journey. You know, I'm kind of curious whether you have it documented or maybe it's just a sense, but when journeys end in the pre-venture, how would you describe why they end? Is it matter of financing, or is it a matter of just for whatever reason couldn't get going? Do you have a sense of where those journeys end and where your interventions could help more?
You mean like they don't make it?
But they don't even start up. They don't even go.
Oh, they don't start up. Okay. Yeah. I mean, some of it is that people realize they're not meant to be doing business. I mean, it's not for everybody. It's tough. it requires a lot of dedication, and people think it's gonna be about doing only their passion and what they love. And then when they start doing it, they realize, wait a minute, this is not what I love. Like, I have to now do financial tracking and marketing, and now I have to understand HR, and I hate these subjects and I don't want to deal with it. They're like out, you know? So that's one thing I would say. And then another is definitely funding. You know, like some businesses just don't get enough capital to actually make it work. And some, they unrealistic about what they're like, how they can grow business while also generating revenue on the side to sustain their livelihood. Because, you know, that's one of the pieces that's really important is sometimes people jump into running a business before they have security to make sure that they can pay rent and, you know, just basic standard living. And so they run into that little bit of a hurdle where it's like, I didn't realize that this would take as long, or I'm not generating, you know, they have myths about, oh, I put it out on Facebook, everyone's gonna come to me, or right now there's a huge myth that we've been hearing more and more. I mean, I get emails all the time. What's the next grant? Tell me about the grants, because of all the pandemic funding. And so people are really thinking like, I start a business, I'm gonna get a grant. Like, no, I'm a woman-owned, minority-owned business, I should have a grant. And it's like, not really, sorry. So there's a lot of education that comes into, you know, and that's partly why our advising is so important, because we really help people get realistic, get practical, understand if they are really going to, you know, how to really track their progress so that they are successful versus, you know, come 2 years from now, I didn't realize this was going to happen and now I can't manage it. So.
I suppose the intersection really comes into play where you get those type of inquiries too, where they're really early on. They're like, I want to sign a lease. I'm like, well, what exactly do you want to do there? I'm like, let's start going through this process a little bit more just to make sure you're ready. And that's why the partnership and actually giving those resources to understand really what the larger picture is and how to be successful at this. And
Yeah.
it really is trying to get yourself ready to be at that phase. To actually, we're actually going to make that full commitment. So it really has been. And it's really capacity building and the technical assistance. Really, that's where the SBDC's wheelhouse is that technical assistance. Whereas some of our staff really don't have that capabilities, and that's why it is a nice, you know, partnership and using the synergy of like support services already provided. You know, the other thing too for that's really worked through the SBA. I mean, these are federal dollars, right? The whole program really is small federal and state dollars. So in essence, for our small dollars, we actually get a really good value on leverage of funding to support back to our business community. So that's why when I first met Miriam was saying, well, yeah, I want to find better ways to how we can collaborate and partner because of what this actually achieves for our business community.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can go to the next. So this is the industry breakdown that we saw in 2023. I thought you guys would be interested to kind of get a sense of what people were asking for in terms of advising. So, you know, it's a lot of it is about startup and funding, and then there's a whole bunch of other things. I mean, oh, sorry, that's the next one. Sorry, this is industry, yeah. But this is industry breakdown. Go to the advising topics. This is one I was just saying, like you might wanted to know, because I think some of you asked this last year, so I made sure I put it in. This time was like, well, what are we getting questions on? Like what do people need support on? So this is what people are asking, have been asking us in the last, in a general sense. And going back to the industry too, like there's fluctuations in terms of, this is something that I've been looking at in terms of our data and how we can do it better, but like, how do you, what category do you put a nail salon and a hair salon and this kind of, because there's like different kinds of service categories. So, but in general, I'm trying to start looking at like, okay, let's be even more clean with like how we can track this. So yeah, advising, yeah. And then this is some of the direct results. Now this is attributed results, meaning we have to actually get verification from a client. So we send surveys out to get the verification. So if you go up just a little bit more so that you can see all of it. We've done a lot more than this, but because this is only thing that goes in our system is what's contributed from a client. And so it creates a limitation, I feel, a little bit of what we can really say we've done in our, because we only get maybe like 30-40% of our clients filling out our survey, which means we only can get so much data to be able to report. But the one thing I will say that I'm seeing a trend, so I've been doing this since 2013, and this is the first year, 2024. I do not think I'm going to meet my capital goals. I've never, ever had to worry about meeting the capital goals, and it's not very high, as you can see. And that is because people are not wanting to go into debt. Businesses are not wanting to go into debt as much. There's a lot more businesses already in debt. The lending environment is really challenging. It's really hard right now for a lot of different kind of businesses. And we're seeing people get smaller loans and smaller. So we have been tracking the number of loans. That's a new metric we've been tracking, is like the number of capital that we've been, so like we've over met that goal. So we've already served this year. This is new for this year, so I can't say for 2023, but for this year, we've already met like our goal for the number of clients that have some capital, but the amounts for each person is very low. So the total amount is a lot less than what we're usually used to seeing. And so I don't know, I just think that's interesting that, that's been something that I've seen continually, and I'm like, well, we'll see how this goes. I don't know, hopefully it'll be okay.
And I understand the trends, and it's Nevada or San Rafael? I think it's in Nevada.
This is countywide.
Oh, this is,
Oh,
I'm just curious.
It goes on about.
I think your trends are there, and whether it's 2022.
I might have forgotten to change
It's more
the-
important than trends, but
Yeah.
somewhere just kind of what we're saying.
I think that's San Rafael data, but I think I just forgot to
Okay.
change.
No,
I
great.
do report for Nevada and I do report, so I'll change, I'll just verify that I
Okay.
changed that before.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So anyways, that's one thing. The other thing we've done a lot of is workshops, which has been huge. We have been growing in our participation with that. So that is something that has been great. This year in particular, in 2024, we've seen highest registrations for all of our workshops. Like we had over 220 registered for Canva workshops, which was crazy. So if you want to go down a little bit, super sorry about the Nevada thing. I'll fix that. I'm pretty sure those are standard phone numbers. Anyway, so this is some of the workshops that we did in 2023, different topics. Trying to so this is where our partners come in, because if there's certain topics that you feel would be really helpful for us to do, then please let us know, because how we develop it is we get feedback from the community, we get feedback from our, participants and partners, so that we can really create things that work. And then to go a little bit more in detail about some of them is, and this is Stephanie for your group, you probably, I don't know if you know about our program, but this is one of the ones that would be good to make sure people in East San Rafael know about, is our Constriano Negocio. That is, we do that 3 times a year. It has been growing in popularity and in referrals. So we now have every class, 10 to 15 people that are on the wait list for the next class to join. We have the next one starting July 30th. It's a 10-session program that is over 5 weeks. So it's pretty intensive. We've been getting a lot of really, really good feedback from that. And then we've been developing other Spanish workshops to go with that program in between them. So we do more in depth on marketing. We do more in depth on, a lot of it's been marketing, but we might do another one on financials in Spanish. And we've been reached, so 98% of the people that this year took Mostrando so far are immigrants. So we've been reaching a lot of really great feedback in the community that are super excited that these programs exist in Spanish, because I don't really see very many programs like this in Spanish. And so very good feedback, please keep doing it, please support, do more, create more. So we'll see. We do a 10-session program with Center for Domestic Peace for women coming out of domestic violence situations. We do a 9-session workshop for high school students with the County of Education. We do programs with YWCA. So these are sort of like our like specialty programs that we do all the time. And then, this curriculum doesn't really change that much. I mean, if we update it and obviously edit it, but it's kind of like our programs that we keep offering. The other curriculum is like we change all the time to make it updated for like what the latest is, like what people want to learn. So, but it's, yeah, and then if you go so we did a lot more this last year with childcare and Spanish. We did programs with Marin Child Care Council, and we did programs with Canal Alliance. And those are just some testimonials for one from an immigrant, probably both of them actually are from immigrants. So it's kind of fun to be able to start really expanding into that. You know, I put this out there, the only advising capability I do not have in Spanish is HR. So if anyone does know of a person who speaks Spanish that can do HR advising, I would love to have them on my team. I have not yet found that. So then that is, yeah, so this is pretty much just to say that, like, you know, like I said, we've increased, we've done better with our low income data. And we've had a huge increase in workshop attendance and also workshop continuation, like people really using the workshops. Like when we designed our Canva workshop this year and when we designed the AI workshop, we did it and so that people could use the recording, so that they could use, you know, go back and use it again. And I've had many people emailing me to get the recordings, to watch it again, to look at it again. So we haven't put it all up on our website. That's my next project in terms of libraries, but like that's something that, you know, we can start looking at is creating more of a library for people to access. Because people have been wanting to refer to this a lot. And like I just got an email from somebody today that took our Google workshop months ago and was like, I just been working through the recording and now I'm ready to meet with somebody. Like, can you like connect me? And it's like, okay, great. You know? So I think that's the, and that's, oh, well, there you go. Yep, that's it. You can.
Well,
Yeah.
fantastic. I love how responsive you are to community needs, especially the workshop. And I'm sure you'll continue to bring forward those financial kind of acumen ones, because I noticed on where you're already advising. So you had your requests, that chart, and your number one request is around capital and financing. So maybe matching that up if that's where people are asking for help. And I did see a lot of them around the social media and Google, and that was actually one of your smaller numbers. I think it's definitely like more, they're black holes in different ways, let's say that. But that is something we've heard through working on the county level, the economic work we did with them. It came through a lot about having the financials, the basics, actually. It's probably not even that sophisticated.
You mean in Spanish? That?
Oh, or in English. No, I think it was on your advising. I think your advising one was just all your workshops.
No.
Right?
Yeah, that was all just our advising one-on-one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So if people are advising one-on-one, maybe one way you can get at that, just having English speaking workshops, even around the financials. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that sounds like a real stumbling point. That's kind of my takeaway. Vice Meredith, any other takeaways before we move on to the next item? Or
Yeah, no, just a question. First,
Yes.
congratulations on getting such an increase in
Amazing.
workshop attendance. It sounds like beyond anything else, there's a massive amount of interest to even draw people in. I'm curious because if you're doing it for so many years, are you seeing whether it's the same year or multiple years later conversion to say that person who has shown interest in attending the workshops have actually taken that big leap into be in a position to succeed as a small business?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people who attend are in business already. I mean, most of our workshops are, except for the childcare. So we're still working out how to do childcare programming because apparently our level of instruction was too high level for them. Like they want super basic apparently. So we're trying to figure out how to work with that a little bit more. So, but the rest of our English workshops are, and not childcare workshops, are intended to be for existing businesses. That's the goal. Is like we're designing it for an existing business so that they can learn more and grow their skills as a business owner. I mean, I didn't even put all the rest of it, but this is just us. We have workshops through our whole network. So our network is Santa Cruz to the Oregon border, and there's 16 different centers, and every center is doing workshops. Anybody in our region has access to all those. they do a lot of, our lead center does a lot of basic workshops. I don't do that anymore because they do it. So when somebody wants like to get started and they're not sure if they're, you know, we send them to a workshop through our lead center, which I didn't put in our data because it's harder for me to collect that data because I'm not in charge of running those workshops. But it is that there's still a lot of businesses that go to that. So, and then, but yeah, but I mean, we have a lot of clients that have used our workshops as ways of helping them so that they can understand more fine tuning about how to work this one little aspect. So like we did for the first time Meta Business Suite. I'm not a social media person, so you know, I don't know all the nuances, but like it was to help people understand how to use it better so that they could save time and, you know, really work on their business differently. And so we had clients taking that and being, and then coming back and asking all these questions, like, I need to now know how to do this and this and this, you know, which is great. That's the fun of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and I take your point too, like, well, I mean, the problem with the financial piece is that because there's such a myth that we're gonna get funding, it's like people think, you know, like, I'm gonna just do this and I'm gonna get funding, you know?
Oh, budgeting, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever, it just has a foundational structure.
Yeah.
We'll just.
And the thing is like, we see what people need.
Yeah.
And they don't see it though. So like we tried doing different things at different times and it's not as high of attendance. So it's, you know, it's like,
I think a point.
we try our best, you know, marketing, it just, everyone wants to take those because they all need marketing help. So it's easier to get people, but yeah, I'll look at that.
It's amazing the amount of work that you're doing, and I really like how I said that you're really responding to what the community is saying are the needs. Do you have any other comments or questions before we go on to the next
I
item?
just said, for the financial side, it's just one area that's been a gap for Marin County for some time is really the lending networks. Like the understanding that I do think that's something we have talked about in the past, trying to find other lending partners to come into Marin. Like we don't get a lot of the CDFIs or something that like, there are actual groups that actually target specific groups or income levels. We just don't have that coverage here in Marin County. There's a point we may want to actually ask for a couple of ones come in from Oakland or San Francisco to actually do those things here in Marin. That's really, but this is that kind of SBDC network opportunity to do that. We can kind of align that a little better and actually host those workshops. But I actually think it's like a really countywide type situation. Like, let's invite everybody. Let's set this up correctly and bring them both banks, CDFIs, non-traditional lenders. I know you were looking at Kiva, like different pieces that actually could help depending on different levels. And it really is kind of this point of getting where they're at. Like some people are looking for something much different. So.
And, you know, this was a while ago, but, you know, I did do a really successful Access to Capital event a while ago. And, you know, that's something that we could always really bring back, but it would be a partner event. It would need to be a partner event. When we did it, the reason why it was so successful is because I had 12 or 16 organizations from different funding types of funding there, so that it could really cover the whole different gamut of funding, right? So I'm open if that's something that you guys want to look at. I mean, I've put it in other ways. Yeah.
So that actually, so now I'm super curious, why is it that there's a shortage of lending in Marin? I would have told myself a completely different story, but why so is it that an outside entity couldn't assess risk geographically in Marin, or why would there be a shortage?
I've actually talked to a couple of them, and it's really just the relationship and understanding of it. You remember, for me, economic development or business development really has not been super strengthened in this county compared to others. They've invested in an awful lot more. We're like, hey, time and effort, I'm easier here than I am starting a brand new program here. But it's not to say we're kind of starting to form that need a little bit stronger now. So, but it's really just trying to step that opportunity for that.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. That was awesome. We appreciate the data and really appreciate how you're starting to parse it a little bit finer. So that helps us to make good business decisions. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for your support.
I see homeless update, homelessness in 20 minutes. Okay, someone's gonna be talking really fast. But what you can, why don't you speak to it and then we'll take some questions and then, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll just
I
go
won't
quick.
talk
Yeah.
at you for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
but there are some interesting things kind of afoot. I'll start with this because I don't want to forget, because Mayor Kate and I were just talking about this morning, is that the staff are working on kind of putting a refresh. We have some FAQs on the website. We've got a homelessness dedicated website, but I would say over the last few months, things are shifting and changing all the time. And we really want to be able to have a place to point community members and businesses to where they can get the latest and greatest and most updated information. Like now that Grants Pass has happened, there's like this influx of questions like, now why can't everything be changed? And, so we're working really hard to put out as much on the communication front to keep people informed and understanding the nuances. The legal complexities are beyond and very difficult to articulate and explain, where there's some lack of logic in the midst. So that'll be coming in the next week or so. And last week on Monday, so a week ago today, we were in San Francisco in court with our attorney our final shot at trying to dismiss the case against the city. So good news, bad news. He's forecasting that he is going to dismiss the case. He's making us go through an exercise of mapping to prove that there's enough spaces available for people to camp within the footprint of kind of where the Mahon Creek Path encampment is now. If we were to implement a new ordinance, so the lawsuit is on the old ordinance, the new ordinance is less restrictive, which we would hope would hold up another legal challenge. The individual who's suing on behalf of the homeless union has made it very clear that he's planning the next lawsuit. So as soon as this one is dismissed, we'll have another one upon us. Whether or not that we will have the same judge, whether or not the judge grants a TRO, temporary restraining order that would block us from implementing our new ordinance or not. Like, it's really, the jury is out, and we will only know when and if that happens. But I think it's safe to assume we will get more legal challenges on any sort of regulatory framework for camping. So that's the stuff that we have less control over. The things that we do have control over, and that's kind of one of the ways that I've been talking about it a little bit more right now, because the community in general, and I think this is, the community, including businesses who don't live and breathe in this world, I think can assume that we have more control than we do. And that can be challenging to manage expectations. And why can't you just make this happen? And it's not just the legal challenges. It's so, we have been, and if you've been out there recently, there's the big structures that are really kind of unsafe structures where people are bringing in metal sheets and creating foundations and the whole thing. We are able to enforce or dismantle and remove those structures through our encroachment and actually parks code, which is totally separate from the lawsuit and the camping stuff. So there is a mechanism and approach to address some of those more prolific, permanent looking like structures. So the process for that, however, has its own due process. We can't just do it. It's not a summary abatement sort of approach, which is something we're going to explore in the future, but we don't have that tool in this moment. So what we're able to do is notice individuals. If you've seen West Francisco, you'll see that encampment that was in front of Marin Roofing is completely gone. There are now boulders there, and based on the location, there's forgive me for not remembering the technical term. There's like a drainage ditch that is proximal to where that encampment was before. In the new ordinance, camping isn't allowed within a setback of that, and also the setback.
Drop inlet.
Sorry,
A drop inlet.
it
So
might be
they call
that.
it?
It might be that. But because we've got setbacks from private property and from utility infrastructure, and so that would eliminate camping in that section of the road.
Looked like you took one out at Bellevue, Francisco too, a big one, right by the highway.
Yes.
It also had like a foundation.
Yes.
Essentially,
Yes. So what's happening now along Rice and Anderson and all along Anderson, if you've been by there, it's looking pretty rough. So we've got to take an iterative approach to this enforcement. We notice, well, first we seek voluntary compliance, and we'll get about a quarter to a third of the people will go with the program and dismantle, and they get a 10, they get new sleeping materials. We haul the stuff away. We give them, noticing period of 72 hours or 5 business days or something to say, we're preparing, we're going to come back on this day with the dump trucks, et cetera, et cetera. If they have an appeal right currently in the code. So if they appeal and they say, you can't take my structure down, we have a retired judge who's named Beverly Wood, who's now done 2 sets of hearings here in the council chambers. And that's the due process right now that we have to go through. So part of the challenge in communicating and like, why does it still look like that? And why can't you just do it tomorrow? Is this process it's in our code. They got to have a right to a hearing. We got to notice them. They have 15 days notice before the hearing. And what the hearing officer has been saying is they have another 2 weeks after that, 15 days to do the thing. So the elapsed time from, like, we're noticing more structures this week on Anderson. The elapsed time, once you notice the structure through the whole due process, assuming they appeal, is like a 6-week process. It's not like we can notice and they're gone in 72 hours. It's just, we don't have that tool yet. So this is the piece that we're working on, is getting out of the lawsuit, having a regulatory framework that gives us a summary abatement tool. That approach will also have legal challenges too. So one of the things that the city is trying to do with our limited resources and people, hi Corey.
Hello.
Is we're talking homelessness, you're right on time.
Oh, good.
So is to manage the legal risk so that it's like this 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. We want to be 2 steps forward, stay 2 steps forward. and what keeps happening is we keep getting reverted back. And even though we've taken what we thought was measured legal risk and reasonable legal risk, the judge in this case has had a very unique approach to the bench in this case. And so even with Grants Pass, which gives us more flexibility, and from an enforcement tool perspective, it doesn't, there's 2 pieces of it. Just, the legal complexity is Grants Pass doesn't address a state created danger. In our lawsuit, their foundational position, their legal position to the judge was the city is creating a state created danger for these individuals.
State created.
Yeah, that's like a legal term, because we don't have alternative shelter to offer them. That's like the big rub. So pivot to like the other things we have control over.
Because before I move on to that, so just to elaborate further, then you'll say it's not right. State created danger in this case is because they're claiming that they need to live proximally so they can protect each other for their own safety, is the theory. So it's different than the cruel and unusual 8th Amendment legal theory upon which the Grants Pass is on. So it's a totally different legal theory.
And that's a perfect segue. So you're and that is part of what we changed in ordinance. Is instead of saying you're going to be 200 feet apart, we created more of a setback approach, kind of like you do with zoning. Like, you can't be right up against somebody else's house. You can't be right up against somebody's business. Still spreads people apart. But to Vice Mayor Hill's point, a big part of their case was arguing like people need to call out for help in the middle of the night, and if they're too far away, then nobody can hear them. So it's an unsafe condition. Or somebody who's a domestic violence survivor doesn't want to camp alone because they're worried they're going to get assaulted in the middle of the night. So they need to have community close to them. And that their theory was that encampment provides that sort of safety. But that's an unregulated camping area where, as you all know, the impacts of this are like prolific. And so we are working right now to establish a sanctioned camping area on the section of the path and right there. And so this is like important for everybody to know. When we're doing business outreach, we've talked to Sprouts, we've talked to East Bay Tire, we've talked to the Cal West rental people. There is no great place for this. The city doesn't really want to do a sanctioned camping area. What I mean by that is we really want to have interim housing. That's really what we want, but we don't have we've got a grant from the state and we're going to work with the county on that. But in the meantime, this like chicken and egg, that's not the right analogy. In order to have more enforcement tools, we have to have an alternative place for people to be. And that's right. Vice Mayor Hill's point, if we have a sanctioned camping area with security and case management and support and services, theoretically, then this creates the safe space that the plaintiffs have been saying they need to have. You can't pull us apart from each other. Now, similar to the SSA, we're trying to kind of take lessons learned from the SSA and apply them here. In order to participate in a sanctioned camping area, you have to abide by a code of conduct, and you've got to, and there's no ins and outsies, and this isn't a party camp. This is, a place where you're there to be on your pathway to housing and to be safe. Not everyone who lives out there right now is going to want to participate in the program. So the trade-off, we're in trade-off land all the time, right? Is the section of the path that's directly across from BioMarin. Once the sanctioned camping area is up and we have an alternative safe space for them to go, we will prohibit camping on that section of the path.
So as you're driving away from downtown, sanctioned will be on the right, unsanctioned will be on the left of Anderson?
If you're at East Bay Tires, you know where that is? Across from Sprouts,
Oh,
right? That section will be East Bay Tire to Anderson there'll be no camping allowed. But this is months out. I just want to be clear, like getting all the ducks in a row, getting to the place where we can say, okay, no camping here anymore is months out. Yeah, so the section of the path that's closest to West Francisco, that connects to West Francisco, is where there'll be fencing and the whole security, the whole thing, 24-hour security, a case management company, the grant is paying for it. So, having one of the things that's different about the SSA that I think from a business impact. Oh, thank you. From a business impact perspective, here, I'll show you.
It's right now when you drive, BioMarin's buildings on one side and the parking lots on the other, and there's camping on both sides.
We're here, right?
Let me just zoom in.
So this is where the sanctioned camping area will be from here to here. So this is Sprouts, this is Cal West, this is Marin Roofing is right here. This is kind of an empty building of BioMarin. This is BioMarin.
That's the parking garage, right?
Yeah. And this is all blocked off. And so this section, which has been a big impact for BioMarin, this will be clear.
Okay, and what about what about the path on the other side of Anderson, right there?
What?
Lindaro? Sorry, sorry, I don't mean to be so
No.
difficult, but.
No, it's
It
important
seems
to
to me
know.
when you drive through that people are camping here and here.
This is gonna be the sanctioned camping.
So that's,
So this is gonna be fenced off. So we'll be like
this
this here.
is like a continuation of the path and the creek that starts over here. Okay, so
Yeah.
that exactly answered my question.
Yeah.
So
So
yes on the left and no on the right. But
Depending upon
whatever,
yeah.
okay, makes sense to you. Makes sense to me, thanks. Got it. Not that it only matters, it makes sense to me.
Just to be clear, and this is another important point of like communication and our ask would be to the extent that you can be as informed as possible when questions come your way. And Karen, I should have started by saying like Karen's been incredibly helpful in having these conversations with these businesses and making sure there's a depth of understanding about why this is actually going to help solve some of their problems and not make them worse. One of the lessons learned from the SSA was we really ran that kind of in-house. The grant affords us the opportunity to hire a nonprofit operator with case management services 24/7 and staff are there. So if there's an incident at any time, and it also will help, like we had congregate things coming around the SSA. There'd be much more on-site management of this encampment or the safe camping area, which should again, like really, it will be less safe calls. It'll be, it really should help mitigate for the concerns of like, why does this have to be in our downtown? And so why? I mean, that's another question. We've spent over a year talking to every developer with a piece of land that we know is going to sit for a minute, and nobody wants this there. And one of the other problems we have is proximity to services, right? So people can't easily access the dining hall or Ritter for medical or whatever.
Yeah.
If we put a sanctioned camping area, for example, in Terra Linda, which we've looked at every inch of the city. This is not, and we've not said, oh, this has to be downtown, but if we put a sanctioned camping area in Terra Linda, then we've got to put money towards shuttle and getting food and services up there. And what we're trying to do is maximize as much of the $6 million grant to put towards some sort of more interim shelter solution. So this is a stopgap. We need an immediate solution that gives us, we've been saying, more arrows in our quiver for enforcement so that when one individual, Stephanie, posts up and decides they're gonna live near your business. But in the ordinance, they're past the 10-foot setback, but the impact they're having on that business owner is just like awful. And we need to be able to do something about it. We can offer them space here. And if they can, you know, if they continue to say, no, then when we get a temporary restraining order, we go to the judge and we say, look, we've offered this person safe camping area 5, 6 times. They refuse it. We need to be able to say this is not a place you can be. There still are other places you can camp unregulated, you know, that are not prohibited from camping, but you can't be at this spot right now. And over the last year, since we've been in this lawsuit, our ability to say you can't camp at Lawrence Place, you can't camp outside of Joe's. It makes no sense, but we've had no ability to remove
In
that
light of
person.
all that you're saying, I'm actually even more surprised that I was successfully granted the restraining order, frankly, because it was really for a right. Restraining order process, the legal process is against an individual. And I was asking on behalf of a place, not an individual. And so
But you were in Marin County Court,
that's right.
which is actually helpful. Like you do, like, and I shared this with you offline before, like it is a process and it is a pain, but the local court might be more willing to grant than the federal court, which is
So, well, sure.
right. But yeah, so just to be clear before, so this section of Anderson, some of this land here, for example, looks really small, but it's like 30 or 40 feet actually from the building to the sidewalk.
It's plenty of room.
It's plenty of room. So this is not an area, this is an area where we're still gonna see camping. What we're gonna do is say you're gonna continue to say you can't have structures. You gotta have your footprint kind of contained, like the debris management is a whole thing. We took 31 tons of debris in a month from the structures that we've cleared so far. I mean, it's just, you know, it's an inordinate amount of
Yep.
stuff. So when you see it out there and it looks awful and you're like, oh my God, how is this possible? We're still doing trash, big cleanups twice a week. So it's almost like unless you see it as soon as the cleanup's been done. And even then, if somebody says, this is my personal property, we can't take it. We have to notice it. We have to store it for 90 days so that they can come and pick it up and then we can dispose of it. So all of these things are like resulting in the way it looks now. Yeah. So tomorrow, the county executive and I have convened a group of his core team, executive team working on this, including the new HHS director and our core team at the city to try to really have a paradigm shift in the city and county partnership and the way we approach this as an integrated regional response to homelessness.
Awesome.
I think having Derek be a new CEO, he was a city manager, he comes from a county where if you look at the pit count numbers, the San Luis Obispo has the same amount of homelessness as we do, as the city of San Rafael does in comparison to San Luis Obispo County or to Marin County is. So city to county, he just came from my seat and he really has a different perspective as a result. So he and I agreed that it's been a long time since the city and county have really had a high functioning partnership in this regard, and it's about time. So we've brought in a facilitator from the Center of Organizational Excellence, and we're going to spend an entire day. Actually, Marin Community Foundation is going to host us, and we're going to spend a whole day and we're going to work on making this a more effective partnership.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So
Good for you.
yeah.
We gotta do something.
You've become an expert. Seriously. I mean, thank you.
It's gonna take a minute, you know, but it's a really important investment. And I've been telling our team is that it's not just about homelessness. It's about good government and it's about how we should be working together. Taxpayer dollars are really, really valuable and we cannot squander or we can't be like, you know, we've got a lot more serving the same community. I mean, for like this, we got to up level. So that's kind of our
This is why meetings like this are so valuable. It's just what you said. You know, Karen and I walk out of here and we don't just interact with our work colleagues, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you live here, I
have
grew up
friends.
here, we have friends, we talk, I mean, you constantly hear people say stuff. And if we can be informed, at least you can I can parrot back what you've told me. And then you're not perpetuating like the stuff that's not even really accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to explain it to us.
Of
Yeah, that's really
course.
great.
It's complicated.
I applaud you guys in just the way that you're strategizing how to use that $6 million, because I think taking what was learned from the SSA experience, and my team was out there in my former hat world, and seeing how you're pivoting to have a designated provider to be there. I think the impact of the relationship building that will happen just by having a designated team there is going to be exponentially dynamic and getting people housed and engaged differently than what we even saw at the SSA, which had phenomenal results. Like SSA was an incredible opportunity. So I just want to acknowledge, like, this is such a cool way to spin how you want to level up that space. That's very cool. It's good.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you and your expertise. And it really, it feels like there's a shifting of the tide or something afoot, which feels really good. So there's a lot to look forward to, but a continued patience, and appreciate your efforts at communicating, these nuances, because it's hard to convey these nuances in a homelessness newsletter update. Even the FAQs, it's like you still have to read it and digest it, and you're not looking at it together, you're not out on the path. But I think our ask, or my ask, would be just, continued patience and understanding, and knowing that we're here and available if there are questions, or if there's something that doesn't align with what we said here today. And it's like, wait, Christine said, or, just always outreach and ask, so we can clarify, or maybe we didn't get something right and we need to pivot and address it. So. Yeah.
And Stephanie, to your point about, I'll say it this way, that a lot of storytelling goes on out in the community, and a lot of it becomes very powerful. Around, well, just move everybody away, and there would be big consequences if we just did that. Or you're going to create an attractive nuisance by getting more people who are unhoused here in San Rafael. And there's no evidence we've ever seen that what we're doing would result in that. So anyway, I would just say bi-directionally, please continue to share stories that you're hearing, because it helps us create better frequently asked questions, responses, because we only get what we hear, but we would love you to surface what you're hearing too.
Yeah, from a lot of parents, David's parents, I mean, people, that was probably really good that it's summer for you all right now. I think that, and people just don't understand the pace.
Yeah.
If you haven't been exposed to, building a Target store, or going through the process or something, you don't understand. Why would a layperson understand the pace? I mean, even a home remodel, I don't think that's a lot of exposure for civilian home residents. I just think that these legal ramifications it's tremendous, and it seems like the needle gets moved all the time. Yeah. And everybody has one of these, and so everybody's an expert.
Everybody's an expert.
No, I think you did a great job of encapsulating a really complex issue that's changing all the time. And I'll just close by saying we really are trying to put a lot of information through the newsletter, through the FAQs. We have a video. John Stansky did a video. Just so people can consume it however they want. Because unless we're talking to every single resident of San Rafael one-on-one, I mean, we have to have a venue to put out information. So we're going to keep improving those sources.
Translated?
I think that's a really good question. I think we did a transcript of it online, but I don't know if there's a voiceover.
It might be good to have.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
It's going on our newsletter, just so you guys.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank
you for that.
So we'll keep leaning into that.
When does that go out?
It's going to be going out hopefully today.
How often do you?
Every other week.
Oh, so the next one, will you touch base with me on that? So we'll have the refresh FAQs.
Yeah.
You could add,
We can go again.
And we'll have that ready for when school does get back in, because it will come back. We spent a lot of time and effort, because we didn't get out in front of some of it. We spent a bunch of time catching up. So we already know what's going to happen, because we already lived it last fall. We have a great relationship with the school. So we'll be sure to try to get in front of that for when school starts August, something soon.
If you guys ever have information you want me to send out too, please let me know. I mean, I know I'm not only San Rafael, but it's still good if there's stuff that is helpful, just,
San Rafael's a role model, so send it out to those other
We're gonna move right along. Thank you, thank you. And the last one, item on our agenda is the Equitable Low Carbon Economy Program. There's been so much work on this, so
Yes.
I'm really excited that we're having this conversation today.
Thank
You
you.
know,
Thanks for your time.
turn it to Cory.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go from one daunting problem.
Yeah, yeah. You're really the doctor. Really like the doctor.
So thank you for your time. And as Stacey's pulling up the agenda, I'll just introduce Emily Courtney here from Good Green Work. Emily is our consultant on this project and she lives like right over there, so she could come walk down.
I know those streets that we're talking about very well.
And Holly Lawrence, our zero waste fellow, and our last fellow, because we are no longer going to get that grant, so we won't be having fellows anymore, but she's got a lot of time and energy to this. This project's been going on for about 4 years. First, it went really slow during the pandemic and other duties as assigned and all that good stuff. But it came out of our climate action plan that Mayor Kate and I ran the update like several years ago. And one of the things that we were looking at was how do we really combine climate action with economic development as well as social equity and to make sure that we're minimizing unintended consequences and maximizing co-benefits and opportunities, right? So when we did a lot of engagements around our climate action plan, what we heard from the business community a lot was, we're all in for this climate action stuff, but when it makes it a lot harder for me and I got to spend a lot more time and there's more staff and I don't get my triple bottom line, we got to find some ways to make that a little better too. And then the other piece was for folks in our disadvantaged community, like, well, how do we not lose out on all these new cool green benefits, right? How do we make sure that people are not left behind, that we're in equitable access for everybody? So that's what this project was about, to really look at how do we combine those. Let me know what you got going on.
There we go.
Oh, good, there it is. Thank you. And next slide. Thank you. So we're just going to give you a little bit of framing, and then we'll talk about the findings and recommendations because we actually have a here and we did a bunch of engagements and came up with some recommendations. And then go over the priority work plan, get your input. And also one of the main things is really to try to get you excited about it. There's a real opportunity here. And, as you're out there and talking to other businesses and talking to folks that are doing workforce development, I want you to be excited about this. We all need to be in this together to work on climate change, but we're not going to meet our goals. And it's going to be way worse than these last hurricanes and all of the heat waves that we've seen. The next slide, please. So our climate action plan just is framing. We have a 40% greenhouse gas reduction by 2030. This is trying to meet the science about how fast we need to reduce things in order to be able to really stave off the worst effects of climate change. I always ask people, have you reduced anything in your life or your business 40%? What was that like? So it's a challenging thing. We've got all these different areas that we're trying to reduce emissions from. And next slide, please. One of the things that we talked about was how do we elevate economy and social equity in our planning and in our programs, rather than just focusing on the environment. And so one of the ways that we did that was by putting in a special project that was specifically to look at this and say, what if we looked at this directly and strategically and figured out how to uncover these opportunities directly and how to actually, work in our community to make this happen. Next slide. And then we also have one element in there about just increasing number of green businesses. Next slide. So the key question was, how do we support local climate actions that have the greatest equitable benefit on our local economy and our workforce? We don't actually do workforce development at the city of Sarahville. We don't actually, we have an economic development department, but it's really businesses, right, that are driving economic change. So what tools do we have available as a city? We want to be really clear on that up front. Next one. We can remove regulatory barriers. We can convene and connect partners. That was a big piece of all the work that we've done so far. We can support fundraising, grant writing, and things like that. We can join with others to get more money for things. Next one. We can modify our city policies and procurement practices, right? And the next one. And the next one we can do is we can conduct advocacy. So we can work with regionally and at the state level, even at the federal level, to advocate for resources or for removing barriers as well to be able to do this. Next slide. So these are the partners. We partnered with the chamber early on. We had Lee Bakhtiari has been on our core working group lately. Shadow Alexander from Community Action Lorraine was in the core working group that helped set the guide, like how are we going to do this? What are we going to focus on? What are our main priorities here? We engaged the NEED delegation, John Haveman, who's a local economist that specifically focused on climate change, and inclusive economics helped us draft our first iteration, phase 1. And then we pivoted to Emily here, local, who has a ton of contacts and got us some amazing engagements to good green work to get this next phase done. Next. We did, thank you. We did over 35 interviews with local folks. We did several focus groups, including with low income workers from our neighborhood and other places. We had 2 surveys, both for job seekers as well as businesses in English and in Spanish. So that informed a lot of it, as well as a lot of research around other cities. Next. What's that?
That was fun for
Was it fun?
That was fun.
Yeah, all this stuff, these adult beverages for all the time.
So one of the big things is like, what do we even mean by green job? What is a green job in San Rafael? It's not the same as a green job in Denver or New York City, right? It's a very different thing. So what does that really mean? Well, it's this basic definition, but as we're looking at it through our climate action lens, it's really about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, right, in their work. And a green business is really something that balances the needs of the planet, people, and profits. But then also about really the bottom line is our greenhouse gas emissions. Next. And so these are going to be very intuitive. 4 strategies, pathways to good green jobs. How do we find ways to get people into those good green jobs? The other is saying, well, we have all these jobs. All of them have an opportunity to enact green in their operations and their facilities and stuff like that too. So it doesn't have to be a green job. Next one. We can support existing businesses, whether they're green businesses or not. We can support all businesses in green their operations, facilities. And we can also provide the glide path for new green businesses to come to San Rafael and feel like they get the support they need to be able to become as green as possible. Next. So here are the findings and recommendations. And you can just skip through all these, just click. These are in what I handed out to you. You don't have to look at it now, but it's really, there's 10 areas where there's all these recommendations. Next slide. What we're going to focus in on is really what is the work plan going forward. So we did all this work. Now we're going to get to the work, right? So we wanted to look at first, like, what are the criteria that guide us? And so Emily really worked hard on this, and from all our research and really what's going on at local level. Job quality is one of the most important things. So it's not just income, but it's the quality of the job, the safety around it, the opportunities for growth and all that. Job accessibility, making sure that it's not just open to, you know, somebody's uncle, that everybody has accessibility into it. Next. We're really looking also supporting businesses with labor shortage and demand, right? People are saying to us in different occupations, it's hard to get good employees. And then of course, the climate action potential is a key driver for us. So that criteria is what helped us identify these sectors. Next. Building and construction trades, obviously, with green building and electrification. Transportation, our biggest greenhouse gas emitter in San Rafael in most places, right? And there's a lot of opportunity. And by the way, building and transportation are being combined now when we're thinking about electric vehicles. We've got charging and electrical infrastructure. We've got the grid to deal with. And then ecological restoration is this whole area that we learned about through this program, which was fascinating, which we can get into more at some point if you're really interested.
Interject
Yeah.
something on this slide, just to clarify that last slide, is really particularly related to the focus area on creating pathways into good green jobs. So we're like, first of all, how are we defining that? And we're looking for jobs really that are at the sweet spot of the intersection of this criteria, where we have high quality jobs, good labor market demand, folks who maybe have limited work experience or educational experience can access these opportunities, and then of course climate action potential. So finding those jobs was really a research process, and we found those jobs locally to be in these 3 sectors primarily. Not to say that there aren't other sectors that we could uncover through further research, but our research to date has said we should really focus on training pathways into these areas.
Thank you. That's right. That's all to that point about what's a green job in San Rafael versus New York City, right? Next. And so next one's fine. So we'll go through the 5. And again, we picked these to Emily's point because in terms of what really seems to be the most compelling here and now in San Rafael, in little tiny Marin County, and also all the resource opportunities that are out there right now. So for instance, the first is continue these partner convenings for those priority sectors to uncover more opportunities. So folks like the Marin Builders Association and other partners, we have the California Jobs First, which is bringing $9 million to the Bay Area right now in the next couple of months. And then the $15 million will be coming shortly after that for implementation projects. So positioning ourselves for those types of resources. Next. And then the other piece is really about that convening. So it's like, what are the connections that are being made? We had so many amazing connections in our work already. Next. And so, for instance, we connected our housing people with those tiny homes folks, and Chris went out and got to tour and got to meet them and everything. So those are the types of things that can come about through things like this. Next. And so the one we're working on now, which is really exciting, is with the Lime Foundation out of Sonoma. They do these learning cohorts. And we worked with them in a Canal Alliance and put together a proposal for this California Jobs First program for $300,000 for a learning cohort, a learning training pilot. Because we were talking to Micah, and so these connections, and he was saying, we have all these car dealerships and repair shops right next to the canal. Isn't there some connection there? Well, we've started to do some engagements, and sure enough, it's like those are hard for people, for employers to find good staff. So there's a real opportunity space there. Lime provides training, Canal Alliance provides the wraparound services and the translation and connectivity, and then eventually they can go on and they can get the certifications from College of Marin, and if they want to, they can go up to an apprenticeship program. And now you've got a laddering up to really good long-term family-sustaining jobs. Next. The second proposal, the second thing that we wanted to work on is really working at what are the green skills that can be layered on current jobs that can get people access to even better paying jobs. So it's ecological workforce, early childhood education. This other one, Learn, Lead, Sustain, that's really about building operators. You can have the greenest LEED building you want. If you don't operate it efficiently, you're not going to get the benefits out of it. And this is a big ROI with the energy savings and water savings, and it's a really valuable job. So it's for bigger entities like us or for like BioMarin, places like that. But those are areas that we want to be able to uncover more opportunities to give green skill training and give people ladders up. Next. The third thing is really looking at this whole idea of every job is a climate job. And if you hit the next two, please. Basically, a lot of research has shown that a lot of employees actually do want to take climate action. Some really even want to be in a leadership role. And the opportunity here is every job, a climate job, actually grew out of SCI, which is a local San Rafael nonprofit. And so our pitch is to be able to do an every job, a climate job cohort here in the city of San Rafael with our employees. Use that to be able to put something together that we can offer to other employers here. Next. The third recommendation is really driven by enabling challenging legislation, which is the California Air Resources Board has this advanced clean beach regulation, which is requiring that by early 2030s that all medium and heavy duty vehicles be zero emission vehicles. That is a huge lift. Again, to talking with Micah, his thing was like, we got Anderson Corridor, you've got PG&E, you've got Red Center, you've got the Golden Gate Transit, you've got San Rafael Airport, you've got 2 wastewater facilities all in one corridor. And by the way, we need to transition our fleet as well. Isn't there some leveraging point here? Isn't there some economies of scale that we can do? Next slide. So we've been talking to Marin Sanitary and others about that, and PG&E to see if we can actually develop something rather than everybody going it alone. What an impact on the grid and PG&E and permits and time and all that, right? So we're trying to see if there's something there. Next.
Sorry, Carter, really.
Yep.
We also have the school district and their buses, and there's multiple other players that this kind of intersect too.
Okay.
So there's other partners we haven't kind of keyed in on, but they're going to be there.
So, thank you. And then the last one is really just the basic, like when a business comes to San Rafael, what if the norm, everything they saw was this, and this is coming from our conversations with Miriam and others, that it's the norm to be a green business. Like, what are you doing to be a green business? Or how can we help you be a green business so that you feel like you're an outlier if you're not a green business? So that's what we expect in San Rafael. That's what we're looking at. That's what other businesses are, and that's what your clientele expects. So it's all about our web services, about working together, continuing to work together to make sure, like the GO program and other things. It's just an opportunity to just showcase that, yeah, San Rafael businesses are green businesses. Next. And so we built out some web pages around that and some simple content. And then, of course, we have our friends at the county that run the Green Business Network. So that is it. So if you just hit those 4 more times, and it just shows. So the idea here was just to get your eyes on it. Make sure this sounds good to you, right? It's a work plan that we want to move forward with. See if you have any questions, if you have any other thoughts or insights, when you've been meeting with other businesses, if you feel like, wow, there's an opportunity you're missing here before we start to formalize this plan. And then also just the idea again of like, when you're talking to other businesses and employers, are you asking about, we're trying to, greenhouse gas, we're trying to all, participate in combating climate change. How is your business doing that, right? And have those conversations.
Emily, anything else that you want to add before we open up for questions? Sorry for that quick.
No, we loved it. You were like
And
on it. We're hanging on your every word. Thank you, Corey and Emily and Holly for being here. You said something really interesting at the beginning, and I just wanted to highlight it, and that is we don't do workforce development here, and I just can't underscore more enough the convening aspect of it. It was interesting because I happened to meet with Dr. Eldridge, who's the head of the College of Marin last week. And so that convening part is so critical, and they're all in. And I loved how you had that on the automotive. And I think as we're sitting here thinking about it, they are motivated. And Alina over there is really, and he and I had a very long conversation, like, how do we elevate her? And I can't remember what her special title is, but we want to have that clearinghouse, and we've had to fill in the vacuum because there hasn't been one place where it's lived. I would love for it to live at Calm for reasons, but I think all of us will have a piece of it. So I really wanted to underscore it, because when I look at this, it's like, wow, let's make sure that we're circling back with College of Marin and all of them and saying, hey, this is the conversation we're having. What do you think of every job, a climate job in San Rafael? Hey, Calm, how would you lend your, because we can't do this by ourselves. So, and we're not proposing that we are, just want to be very clear about that. So that is fantastic. Vice Mayor Hill, if you have questions about this.
Yes, no,
Yeah,
thank
go
you. And I know, Corey, you've heard me say this from the dais before, but I have I'll call it a level of frustration that when we look at our carbon footprint is really about emissions here inside of the geo boundaries of San Rafael. I mean, my sense is that every community member has an opportunity to make personal consumption decisions that have impact both downstream and upstream. How we buy packaging, or how we, I'll just say it this way, like imagine a person who eats nothing but cows versus someone who eats locally grown produce is a very different carbon footprint overall, but may not necessarily impact how we emit here. So I think that in terms of the things that we control, though, I am super interested in what more we can do to draw attention to the choices that people can make here in San Rafael. Say, we made a major investment, as we know, along 3rd Street corridor. Are people really taking advantage of walkability and safety of cycling? What is the intersection of, values, economics, and convenience? That maybe there are things that we can do to draw more attention to a choice that someone makes every day to get in a car, even if it's an electric car, getting that off the road and walking or bicycling instead. So I see beyond, I see green job opportunity there to even help individual households make decisions that support them around values, economics, and convenience. So anyway, thank you. I mean, it's more, maybe I'll call it my gripe, not on you, but just how we can engage our community to make, this is really, when I think about the various people in our community, so many different personas out there. There's families, there's people who are later in life, there's people early stage in life, and I see so much potential. To your point around, have you ever done a 40% reduction in anything? It's a very dramatic exercise that everyone can do. So anyway, thank you for your continued push to focus on how we can create an economy around this.
thank you.
And then,
Yeah,
I'll just respond to that quickly.
Please.
The intersection I see in what you're saying with this project comes primarily in the 4th category, the recommendation around supporting the growth of new green businesses. And there are many people in our community who are interested in entrepreneurship that could benefit from more visibility into the opportunities that climate change is creating. Not to think about climate change strictly as a challenge without having visibility into the potential economic opportunities. So we do have a list that we're generating of mostly policy-driven opportunities to respond to climate change. Policy is moving markets, it's creating new opportunities for new businesses, but you may have special access to insight into business opportunities that are not yet on this list. So if you ever think to yourself, we know this regulation is coming to effect, it's going to shift the packaging demands, for example, we won't be able to use this type of packaging anymore. We don't know what the solution is to address this mandate, but it is a business opportunity for somebody to figure out in our community and hopefully make a lot of money and create a lot of jobs. If you ever see one of those opportunities, please let us know. We'll add it to the list. We want to make sure you have access to this list. But we, kind of want to shift community thinking about this idea of challenge and opportunity and start looking through that lens to see the opportunities that climate change may bring to the community. Use your help to identify those opportunities.
Yeah, Stephanie, I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
First of all, thank you guys for all the work you're doing. I love, the way that you've laid this out. I mean, I've heard pieces at different times, so it's great to see it, put into some sort of a framework that can be looked at. I think what you were talking about with College of Marin, and at that level, I think there is a lot more opportunity for, kind of educational pieces at Dominican, at College of Marin. And I don't know I don't know if that's something, this is something I have no idea in terms of how education gets implemented, but if there's some ways that maybe even it can be more of a standard in terms of what is educated. And in the sense that there's like you were just talking about local people, everybody's individual decisions. Like, has anyone ever done the ecological footprint? I do that in my class that I teach. And it's like eye-opening, right? You see, you put in what you do and it's based on calculations, but it tells you how many earths that you would need in order to support your lifestyle. And that is a wake-up call for a lot of people. So just little tools like that, where you can kind of get that. I feel like that's the kind of, when you're talking about like bringing things together, maybe there's some way of like helping bring more of those tools so that we educate on people and get people start thinking differently about their choices on a day-to-day basis. But two, also the businesses, because it's like both, it's kind of the same. It's one person, it might be a homeowner and a business owner. You know what I mean? So it's not either or, it could be getting both in that. So
we have that. It's called Resilient Neighborhoods. I did it as a homeowner. Did it over 10 years ago. So exactly what you just talked about. It's education, it's everything. And I know you had talked about doing it with the businesses as well. You've done that. So I think that is a tool. Like, I don't want us to be recreating tools. We have great tools.
well, yeah, but let's maybe implement it more, do
We
more.
don't get resilient neighborhoods in
Did it-
your.
Yeah, we have a lot of home-based businesses, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what I'm
actually, it
talking
does
about, yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that intersection again, like cost effectiveness. So thinking about the resilient communities model, like really bringing in like how to help homeowners identify, like, is solar cost effective for me? Is battery storage cost effective for me? Can I shift to an EV cost effectively so that it is more equitably available? A lot of people are going to do it because they can afford to and it's altruistic, but there are many community members that can't do it out of altruism. Yeah. So how can we better advertise those opportunities that actually reduce their both ideally initial cost and their operating cost over time? I just want to say about our community colleges are very well resourced. They're an incredible asset that the city doesn't have to pay for, but our people have access to. Alina is the Dean of Career Technical Education at COM. They have a lot of resources. They have a lot of space. And what we've been talking about with them is, there are a lot of green jobs that are hidden in plain sight, like an automotive technician is one of the jobs we've been talking about. You saw that on the slides. And all of our automotive technicians will need the skills to continue to serve internal combustion engines, but they also all need the skills to serve EVs. And so talking with them about their programming and make sure that they're really preparing people for the skills that are needed right now. And maybe 30% of the average service technician's work right now is on electric vehicles. So they need that training immediately. How can we support them in getting that training into building construction trades, into technician, all these fields that are really instrumental in making sure that we're making the changes we need to make at home and in our business.
Karen, do you have any questions?
I just want, no question. Anytime you share information, Corey, I'm just like blown away at how do you do all of the things you're doing? Because you have your foot and fingers and all of the things that are all sustainability. So my hat is always tipped to you for your work. But I wanted to mention that the chamber's hosting a lunch and learn for our green, to really lift up green business, and what can that look like? So I know that Mark Shabria did it last year. We're bringing it back. It was really successful. And so maybe we should talk offline because I feel like there's a way that we could, I don't know what this is, but we could do some juggling or something. Yeah. But I also wanted to touch on COM's auto program. My son is in that program, and he is not learning about e-vehicles through the program yet. And it's something he's constantly, I really wish that we were learning this. So then it becomes an on-the-job seek to find so he can learn and enhance his skill set. So, so, but it's an incredible program. So for what it's worth.
Run it.
Well, I know-
To the inside.
Yeah.
I really could keep talking about this because it is really exciting and I like the reframing of opportunity versus challenges. It's always easy to get mired in the challenges. So thank you for that. And I respect everybody's time and my computer just said 2:30. So we always want to adjourn on time. So this meeting is now adjourned and we look forward to the next one and keep doing what you're doing in your sectors. We all appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there is a meeting in this room. I got that.
Is it it's like 3?
I have a meeting that says Heather Davis training opportunity, aggressive threatening person.
It got canceled.
Okay. I think there's one free.
So
You're gonna say.
I saw two still.
Is it?
Yeah.
I got, I finally got it the right computer from the city.
Thank you.
It's kicking me out. And yeah, and so then I have to do the password, and the password's like, this letter, this thing, like it's not intuitive, and I can't see the password, really, it's kicking me out for the next one.
I'm sorry.
And I was trying to get it to doesn't sleep, so I didn't know.
Thank you.